One of the most significant days in the history of professional wrestling is the 26th of March 2001. Whilst appearing on WCW Nitro, Vince McMahon announced that he had bought WCW. Following the notorious Montreal Screwjob in 1997, a lot of people believed that WWE had already perished. At the time, Bret Hart was the final major star to leave for WCW, and McMahon's own locker room was on the verge of a riot and walkout. Just a few short years later, McMahon won the fight with Ted Turner and presented WCW as the ultimate proof of superiority. For McMahon, a meager $7 million purchase price was small coin. In October 2000, rumours about WCW's sale started to gain traction. TBS had come to the conclusion that WCW could not be salvaged and the company was collapsing. Eric Bischoff and Randy Savage started the process of raising the necessary funds, but McMahon was the one who successfully made the acquisition, despite Ted Turner's genuine disdain for him. It emerges that a settlement reached barely a year earlier granted McMahon a specific authority in certain situations, and that the litigation between WCW and WWE, which was brought by the latter in response to the NWO storyline, resulted in said settlement. In a lawsuit filed against WCW in 1996, WWE claimed that the NWO narrative portrayed Kevin Nash and Scott Hall as employees of the company. They also charged WCW with defamation, slander, and trademark infringement. The dispute was still pending in court when WWE requested a restraining order to limit the use of Nash and Hall. It should be noted that this occurred prior to the notorious Bash at the Beach event, in which Hulk Hogan turned heel. Had WWE been successful in obtaining the temporary restraining order, the NWO storyline would not have developed. Furthermore, the suggestion that Vince McMahon was responsible for the invasion did not help either, as WCW frequently mentioned that Hall and Nash had been sent by McMahon to ruin the company, and that Vince McMahon and the WWE were responsible for the blackouts that occurred during the programming. The Atlanta-based business was forced to turn around. At that point, they had already started to enforce the notion that WWE was invading them, so dropping the plot was out of the question. On the other hand, every time Vince McMahon was mentioned on television, WWE gained more evidence for their case. WCW was comfortably ahead in the ratings battle when McMahon pounced, but the execs undoubtedly had restless nights in the days before Bash at the Beach, since one court order could have destroyed the entire storyline. Kudos goes to Vince McMahon's lawyer, Jerry McDevitt, because he had no difficulty explaining to the judge the nuances of professional wrestling and the character development that went along with the plot. Although the litigation stretched on for years and WWE did not obtain the restraining order, the settlement turned out to be extremely advantageous for the organisation. The two parties met and reached satisfactory compensation in 2000, and the conditions stated that Vince McMahon had the authority to bid on the company's assets in the event that WCW was ever liquidated. Due to WCW's dire financial situation and one foot in the corporate grave in 2000, this scenario did not appear all that unlikely. WCW failed spectacularly as predicted, with a number of prospective purchasers expressing an interest in buying the business. Thought to be the leading candidate, Eric Bischoff's partners withdrew at the last minute, causing the transaction to collapse. Then, Vince McMahon stepped up and outbid everyone else left on the table. And although WCW despised Vince McMahon, they had no choice but to accept his offer because the settlement was legally binding. More significantly, TBS was almost done with pro wrestling in principle, with the management being likely grateful when Vince McMahon put $7 million on the table, since WCW was already worth very little. WCW literally lost $100 million in a single year. No television network wanted the promotion anywhere near its network for this reason. The departure of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall for WCW commenced the process, and just a few years later, Vince McMahon acquired WCW. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and consider subscribing. I've been Tesh from Turnbuckle Times. Thanks for watching.